Good morning, everyone. So last session we learned about event event binding in React. So in event binding, we discussed about various events. One more category we need to learn. As I told you, we are going to learn about working with the forms. All other events are actually common. All other events are same. We tried some examples also on events. So we are going to learn forms in HTML React. How to handle forms and form events in React. So directly dealing with forms in React is lengthy process. First we will see that how it manages the interactions. So if I want to design a form, collect the data from the form, I want to put some validations inside the form. In JavaScript, how you have done, and in React, it is different. And React, because it supports only one-way binding, it needs so many on-change events to write. Because two-way binding happens using on-change. So first we will see directly how React manages the forms. What are the issues and what is the solution for that? How we can easily manage it? Let's check that first. So here to handle the form, let's take one example component, form demo. So form demo.jsx. So here we are creating one simple component called form demo, and this is having a simple form. Let's create one form. So we are designing some form like register product, some details, data list, data term, some product ID. So we have input type as number, and we have name. This is input type as text, and I just put self ending. We have some price. Input type is number. Okay, and we have some stock. This is input type as checkbox. We are just using various forms shipped to. So here we given a drop down with an option as select city. So we given some option here. Now what we need to do is we need to collect the data from here. I'll keep a button. So say register. I created a simple form here. And what is our requirement? Collect the data from the form and submit to server. Later we are going to integrate with backend. We will see how to communicate with APIs. We will create our own API and we will send the data into that API. First, how we design a form and how to collect the data from the form. Designing is just your HTML. In HTML, what elements you learnt, the same elements we use here. Okay, then let's keep this in the startup. So I am using form demo in the startup. So we will have the form demo in startup. So this is the form and stock here. I will just keep some text as available and that's enough here. Yeah. Now how to collect the data from all these elements on register, because we will learn API how to handle later. So currently in the console we will log the data. Whatever data is collected, we have to get it through the console. So first we will make sure that all this content means all the input related is inside a form, because when I am trying to submit to server, then make sure that it is inside the form. Okay, now form have submit event. On submit event, you know that this button type should be what? Submit. Default button type is submit, but in a form, if you directly write button, then it just gives a warning that please confirm the type. To avoid that, better you use type as submit. Okay. Now what is the requirement? Collect the data from it. So you have to collect the data from the form on register. You have to submit it. So we will write a function and the function is handle register. Click. Okay. On register click. This will fire up when form is submitted. Form submit event is written inside the form. Form have on submit. So you know that form is a generic element. It have two default functionalities. One is submit, another reset. So on submit, what functionality to handle? Handle register, click. But one more important point, by default form have a functionality which we want to disable. What is the default functionality? Form tries to submit the data in the address bar as a query string. If it is on which request, get. If it is on post request, form will submit data in the form body. Whatever default functionality is there, disable. Just allow to handle only the functionality defined by us. How to disable default functionality? We have to use an event argument. You learnt already. Event propagation and event default, prevent default, e dot prevent default, so that it will not do the default functionality whatever it is having. Then what the functionality it should do? It must collect the data from all these elements. Generally In DOM, every element will have an ID or a name through that we access and we will use. In HTML, it is very simple. In HTML, JavaScript, it's very simple because we collect the data by using DOM methods, element by ID, query selector and all. But here, what we have to do, various techniques we will learn. First, what is the data we are collecting? That means we will have a console, constant. In that, we have product. So set product. And we need to collect use state. We need to collect all the product details. To collect all the product details, so what are the details product is having? We will collect as a key and value. We will have like a key and value. That means all the product details we will keep in one object. Object is a key value. So what is the key? ID is the key and it is a number type. Name is another key string type. And one more, price is a number. Stock is a boolean. Boolean means true or false. And one more, so we have a city shipped to, that is city. City is a string. These are the details we want to collect. So from the form, we want to collect all this data. So that is the detail we are having. Okay. Now, how do we access the data from those elements and store them here? So how to access the data from these elements and store in this reference? Set product ID should come from this text box. Here we don't use any DOM methods. We don't have any DOM methods. Then collecting data when you are entering some value inside it is a lengthy process. How? First, every element should have on change. Every element should have on change. Why? Because React is one way binding. Any modification you done, it will not allow to update. First, what we want here, so on change. So what about name? It should also have on change. That means every element should have a change because React have to enable two-way binding only with on change. Now see here, we have to write how many we have to write. Anywhere you can write, just reasonably I am writing here function handle ID change. Okay, how to collect the ID? We have to collect the ID through event argument. So here we have only one way, that is through event argument. So what is that? Set product. Where to set that ID? Set product have a, it is an object, it have an ID. ID coming from where? E dot target dot value. That is what we need to collect. Okay. Now you are collecting this. What about others? Others will set to empty. Others will set to empty. For example, if I first entered name, after that I entered ID. If I first entered the name, after that I am entering the ID, then what will happen? It will set ID and name it will set to empty again. That means what set product is doing, it is assigning the values into this reference. Now in that it is expecting so many details, but you are sending only ID. Then what about name and all? They will be set to initial. That means 0 empty. But I don't want like that. ID you take from the text box And what about other details? If other details are assigned with some values, then use those values. That means, what about name? You have to collect the name from product state. The product, in that we have a property called name. What about price? We have to collect from a product price. Product is nothing but state. That means if user enters price or name before user enters ID, then what will happen? Those details are already stored in the state. Now from the state, we have to collect those details. If you don't do this, you don't collect these details from the state, they will reset every time. So what we need to do, we have price, we have stock. Stock is coming from product dot stock. City is coming from product dot city. Now I need to do this for everyone. I need to do this for everyone. That means every element from where you want to collect the data must have on change. And from every element you have to collect the data. So now this is for ID. Let's copy this. Next one is for what? Name change. In name change, ID will come from product dot ID, but name will come from text box e dot target dot value. Similarly, we have next one is price change, and this will come from product dot ID. Price is coming from e dot target dot value. Next, we have another one. What is it? Stock change. Stock change, and it is coming from same. Stock change e dot this removed product dot ID. Stock is coming from, so e dot target dot value. And you know that here this checkbox can have a value. So value is what? So the value is true or false. Checkbox value is true or false. Value by default, what is the value we need to? So all needs to bind with the value. What is the value you need? So what is the value you need? You need here first one value. The value is coming from where? Product dot ID. Here the value is coming from where? Product dot name. Here the value is what? Product dot price. And here the value coming from product dot what? Stock. But remember, here we need not value. Checkbox can have value, but this need to be not value. This need to be checked. Am I right? Because we need to verify whether it is checked or not. Based on checked, we will get the values and we will use the value. Because it is not a constant value, it will be changing accordingly, right? Now, what about drop down? Drop down also have an value. Product dot what? City. Now we are handling all this. Now what to do here is on change, we have to handle all of them. City also I have to write. Okay. So that means here, this is not value. This is coming from where? Checked. How to display the boolean we will learn. We know that boolean will display true or false. Based on the expression we can display that. Let's see. Another one. This time this is which one? City change. Everything is fine. This will come from product dot what? Stock. city is coming from e dot target dot value. So this is how we are collecting the data. So on change we have to write for everyone. On change, what should happen? Handle id change. Here on change, what should happen? Handle name change. Here on change, what should happen? Handle price change. So stock on change, handle stock change. Here on change, we need what? Handle city change. These are all the events we need to define. And finally, on submit click, what should we do? Console.log. We need to send which details? Product. Actually, later we will use what? Ajax methods. By using Ajax methods, we learned Axios and all. Post, we will post to APIs. Later we will do that. Now, initially, if you are following our sessions from the beginning, so no need to explain why we are writing on change, right? Why we are writing on change and why we need to write on change, I detailedly explained in our previous class. So no waste of time in discussing that again. What is it? React is one-way binding. What are the problems in one-way binding? I explained detailedly in previous sessions. So every element needs all these options. Now what we need to do here? So you see here when we are entering the data. So here product ID, I am entering some ID. The product name, I am entering some name. The price, some price. And here stock available or not. City, some city. And click on register. Then it should collect the data and display the data here. It needs to access the data and show the data here. This is the way how the data is collected from a form. So that is how the data is collected from the form. That is how the data is collected from the form. Now, when you see this, this is the lengthy process of handling the data. Now, usually when you see this, then you will get an idea like my JavaScript is better than React. Why? Because with only one event, we can access the data from all elements, right? But this is the way how React can handle its forms. And this is not at all satisfying at higher level. But this is the way how React can do. So that is the reason developers are not satisfied with the way how React does the form interactions. So, but I hope you understood how much lengthy process it is to handle it, right? That means how much lengthy process we need to manage. Collecting data from them, handling the data is very risky because every event requires what? Every element requires on change. And on every element, we need to collect the data and manage the data here. So this is the way how React does. So first we will understand the React way of handling the form. Right. So what is the React way of handling the form? First point is React have one-way binding. React have one-way binding. React have one-way binding. React have one-way binding. So it enables data from source to bind with UI elements. So the changes, the changes in value, the changes in value are not allowed. The changes in value are not allowed in default one-way binding. The changes in value are not allowed in default one-way binding. They are not allowed in default one-way binding. Then what we need to do, every form element must use which one? On change. On change event to enable two-way binding. To enable two-way binding. So that is how you manage. So every form element must use on change event. This is a lengthy process. So for handling the data. And this I already explained in two-way binding detailedly. Just I showed one example. So the original way how it handles, this is the first point. Example, this is form demo.what.js. So this is the original way how it handles. That is one issue you found here. Now another issue is validation. Validation means, so I want to verify whether value entered or not. I want to verify whether city selected or not. If it is not selected, then what we need to do, we need to show a message. Please select a city. Please enter a value. Then what is the problem here is, by default, form have validations. You can use default form validation. Default form validation means required, min length, pattern. All these are default form validation. You learned in HTML. You can do that. Some elements you have to manually write the validation. That means validation means you have to manually write. That means, suppose how do you verify whether city selected or not? If city is not selected, then we need to show the message that please select the city. How you will verify whether name entered or not? In JavaScript, you learn the logics. That means what we do, for example, roughly here, to handle validation also, manual approach is required. First, I defined a constant. This is like suppose a name error. Set name error is equal to use state. I am configuring empty. We have a constant city error. and set city error is equal to use state, and this is the city error. Now, what should be the name error is? Here, we will put some value. That means we will write some event here. We will write a function. The function is whenever user is handling, so we will use handle name blur. Blur means user clicks inside and clicks outside. So name blur, we will collect the event argument. Okay. Here we will write a condition. If e dot target dot value, that means the text box value is equal to empty. That means there is no value inside. Then what should be the name error? Name error should display product name required. That is the message we need to give. Otherwise, what is the set name error? Keep it as empty. That's what we are giving. That means we need to write an event for this. We need to write an event for this name. Already change event is there. We need to write another event. What is it? On blur. Handle name blur. Okay. And where to show the message? Here I want to show the message. Class text danger. And here I will give name error. Okay. And what will happen now? I return simple validation also. I click inside the text box and I click outside, then it should display the name. You are entering some name. So, and after that you click outside. Now it is fine. You are not entering the name and you click outside, then it should show. Already in JavaScript, you know how to write all these validation. Drop down also, if value is not city, then show them that please select a city. This is not great. This is lengthy, same like your JavaScript, and it is more lengthy than your JavaScript in general. So React is not providing any predefined functions or libraries to easily handle the forms. This is the only way how React can do by its own. Now, if you want more easier, simpler way of interaction, then you need to depend on third party. 100 to 100% React completely depends on a third party. If it is dealing with huge set of elements in a form. If it is simple one to text box radios, then it's fine. You can go with the React. But if you are dealing with lengthy forms, this is not at all satisfying. That means validation is also not satisfying. So another problem in this technique is actually, so React will not provide any validation services for form elements. So you have to validate the values manually using JavaScript functions. JavaScript functions. So you have to validate manually using JavaScript functions. So I will show a simple again form demo.jsx. Just one validation I added. I'll just copy that also. Just a validation is added. I will copy this. This is the val. So what is the problem in React while handling the forms is not having any library for forms. That is the problem. So in real time environment for handling forms in React, we don't follow this every time. Now, what is the solution for this? So the solution is third party form libraries. So third party React form libraries. Third party React form libraries. Because I just showed you the original way what React can do. So, which is not at all completely satisfying for developers at higher level. So we depend on some third party libraries. And there are so many third party libraries for forms. One, some popular third parties. So the popular third party form libraries for React. So R we have one is Formic, another one is Hook Form, another one is Telerik Can Do Forms. So these are the popular form libraries. These are the popular form libraries. The popular form libraries for React. Remember, there are hundreds of them. Most commonly used are these. And some are free, some are paid services. That means you have to buy and use these libraries. And there are so many libraries for validations also. First we are learning for form, then we will see for validating the form, how we can validate the form. So see the formic, we will today see how to handle. So React formic library, how to handle the React formic library. So formic library, how it works, what it does, and how it can simplify our form interactions, we'll see. Remember, again in Formic, every library is different. You learnt one library, the same will not be another. Every library you have to individually know. And it is not guaranteed that all the libraries that you have learned the same company uses. Sometimes what in MNCs happens is they create their own library. So because they need to regularly work with that type of situation, they create their own library. Then after going there itself, means after going there only, you know that they are using some different library. And it is not publicly available everywhere. That is individually designed and developed for them. And you cannot even get a help on Google about it because it is not a public library. Then you have to learn by their documentations, explore by yourself how to use, how to handle. So React Formic library, see what they do. So what they say about this. We will go to npmjs.com. npmjs is package manager official website. Here we will search for which one? Formic. And when we search for Formic, you can see what they say: build forms in React without tears. Means they say that don't cry because already online some people are crying. Sir, this is lengthy process. So much you have written. Sir, can I do like that? Can I do like this? Why you are in a hurry? Don't cry. That is what Formic also saying. Formic also saying that don't cry, don't get excited. Please wait. We will tell you some solution. Right? Already some people are crying. Right? So already crying like, sir, I can do like that, like this. We know how it can be done. That means you don't get excited. So you don't get worried. Don't go into depression. Right? Saying that, sir, in my JavaScript, I done this. We know better than you. That's what Formic says. Formic says that you don't get excited, don't go to depression, don't cry. I will give you a solution. Right? And that is what they say. Officially, they are saying, right? Without tears. Without tears means what? That means a React developer, when he is given with a task like designing a form, interacting with the form, he will literally cry. So that is the reason they say that. So we brought some tissues for you. We will clean your tears. Don't cry. And they provided that here. And that is this is very official. And still, in the direct attempt itself, it doesn't provide every solution. It has several levels of solution. That means for different people, different solutions they provide. That means again, Formic is huge. In that, there are several ways. So you have to wait until you finish learning about it. Then by the time you will learn different techniques. You will understand different techniques, how to handle the forms and all, right? Let's see what these people provide. What is the concept and how they work? Actually, others also I will show you. Another important is what? Another one is React hook form. React hook form is also popular. This is React hook form. I will show you the both options how they work. This is also React hook form. And what is their facility? They say that pre-format, flexible, extensible, easy to validate. Because you just saw validation is lengthy like JavaScript, everything. There is another one. What is it? Telerik. These are Telerik people. And Telerik is very popular. Even you see Microsoft, IBM are the customers of Telerik. And suppose you belong to some Microsoft technology. Microsoft technologies means .NET and all. Then and you are a React developer with .NET like background, then mandatory they ask knowledge of Telerik because Microsoft technologies officially use it. They officially use it. So they ask knowledge of Telerik. And Telerik is not free, it's a paid one. You see, when we go to the demos, it will provide you React demos. React demos. Actually, in that they have the concept of working with React forms. They provide separate React forms. So it is important to use these third parties and work with them. Actually, the UI for Telerik, they call it as Kendo. Kendo is the name of their React components. So now we will see how to handle this same by using Formic library. Formic library. Let's see how we can do that. What it provides, and as I told you, it provides lot of things. We have to level by level understand. Let's see first basic how we can do. So first point, Formic provides predefined predefined components and hooks. Predefined components and hooks for handling React forms. Formic provides predefined components and hooks for handling React forms. So it is easy to extend and validate forms. It is easy to extend and validate forms. So it is easy to manage two-way binding. Two-way binding. It is easy to manage two-way binding. So it provides security features, built-in security features that prevents. What is the problem we will face from forms? Cross-site request forgery. That is the major problem we will face from the forms. That means somebody may post into your application from another application. Already I showed you that cross-site request forgery, how it works. So built in some security related features also they provide. So let's see how to do that. First step, what we have to do is, so we will see how do we set up. So we will see here React Formic hooks. React Formic hook. So first install Formic for project. It's a simple npm install Formic and save. After that, import use Formic hook. You have to import this use Formic hook from Formic module. You have to import this hook. They provide a hook called use Formic from the Formic. So import use Formic from this. Actually, they provide a hook called use Formic. This hook can manage the data binding with the form element. So how it works is, so first we have to syntactically, so import use Formic from Formic. That is the basic. And we need to configure a Formic reference. Use Formic. Use Formic is a hook. It contains the options. It contains the options. Use Formic provide options. it will provide the options. And what are the options of use formic is? So options what it provides is, one is use formic provides a set of options with key and values. First important option is initial values. Initial values is an option. It is an object type. Initial values is an object type. And what is this object is? So it refers to the fields. It refers to the fields in form. It refers to the fields in form. Fields in form. In form, what fields are present? Fields are nothing but what elements are present. It refers to the fields in the in form. Means what are the fields you want to handle in the form. And remember, initial values indicates the fields and it is a key value because it is an object type. Object type means what? It contains a key and value. So what is that key value? I will tell detailing. Second, it is having after initial values, you can configure. So validate. Validate is a function actually. It refers to a function. It refers to a function that contains validation methods. It refers to a function that contains validation methods. It contains the validation methods. What are the validations to perform that is defined here? We have another one, validation schema. Validation schema, it is also a function. What it does is, it uses a predefined validation function. Those two we will discuss. Validation schema. Predefined validation function. Another on submit. On submit. On submit is also a function. What it does is, it defines the actions to perform on submit. On submit of form, what actions to perform we have to write using on submit. Another one, enable reinitialize. It is a boolean actually. So it controls reinitialization of form values. These are important options for forming. For forming, these are all important. All are not required every time. Every time you need only two basic, initial values and submit. Validate, validation schema, enable, reinitialize. We need them in different situations. So what are these values? How do we handle them? We will see that. First, we need to configure the formic like this. After configuring, what is the reference of formic? The formic reference is this formic. Now what we can do is, it provides predefined methods. It provides predefined methods. What are the predefined methods actually? So first you configured the form. Now the question is, how these values will interact with your form. In your form, there is a text box, there is a button, how they will interact with that. So as I showed here, initial values means it refers to what? Fields in the form. That means what elements you are having, it refers to that. How to bind with them? Which field, which value it should use? How do we do that is, after configuring this, next what we have to do, from the form, we need to collect the data and bind with initial values. So here we need to write next one. We need to configure on change event. So bind the formic events and values with the form elements. Bind the formic events and values with form elements. How to bind is, so we are having a text box. Input type is text. So it uses on change. Formic dot handle change. Formic dot handle change. Formic have a handle change event automatically written. We have to just use that. That is enough. That is enough. And remember, this handle change, have you written anywhere? We are not writing. Formic is automatically having. Previous example, what we have done, we have to write this functionality, and formic is now having the functionality. And one more important point is, so is important note is, every form element in formic must have a reference name which maps to the initial values, So it is mandatory that input type text and it should have a name. That means on it should have a name. Name is like some stock. Sorry, it is like just what? Product ID, something. On change. So formic dot handle change. So every form element must have a reference name. That is compulsory. Now one more thing we have to do is bind the submit event of formic with the form element. Bind the submit event of formic with form event. So we have to write one more. In the form, on submit is equal to formic dot handle submit. We have to use handle submit. And because on submit we have to collect all the values. And this event is also configured internally for the form. These are all the basic things we need to follow to bind. And remember, this is just only the first phase of Formic. Formic have so many things. Internally, so much is there. This is the first basic way. There are so many options, various other techniques inside Formic again. So see how it handles this. First, let's go to the design. Now I want to make this simple, little simple. That means we want to make that simple. We want to make that simple here. Oh, what is problem is some. Okay. So we need to make the form simple. This form interactions, we want to make it simple. Let's see what we can do with that. How we can make this simple. Actual design is same. The logic we want to reduce. We don't want this much lengthy to happen. Design is same. So let's go here. First, I will install Formic for our project. Let's do that first. In the terminal, I am installing Formic. npm install Formic and save. So Formic is installed successfully. Okay. Let's create a new component Formic demo and Formic demo.jsx. Export function Formic demo and return. And here we will create a simple form. Same. Right. So we will create a simple form here. So a heading, some register product, same data list. So product ID. So input type is text, number. Okay, just few details I will give, others you can add by same process. Name, input type is text. Okay. Another is stock. Input type is checkbox. Okay, this is available something. So we have city, a drop down. Select city. So we give in some details. Okay, now we need to configure all this inside a form container. In a form container, we are doing that, and a submit button. Button type as submit and register. This is Formic demo, same like form we created. Formic demo. Okay. So this is a simple Formic option. Now, how to collect the data? This time, what simple concept it is? See, first we need to configure a Formic by using which hook? Use Formic. Use Formic is the hook. And use Formic contains some options as an object. What are the options? First, initial values. What are the values? It is an object. What are the values it should handle? So it should handle product ID, which is what type? Number. Means its value, initial value, default what? Another name. It is what? String. Another. So we have stock. It is boolean what? False. Another city. City is we given default as select city. Default select city we given like this. Now this is the initial values. We need to bind these values with these elements. So every element must have a name. This should map with that name. That means it should be same name you given in initial values. What fields it should handle? The same name we have to give. This is product ID and this is name and this is checkbox. This name is what? Stock and this name is what? City. You learnt already in HTML. A form cannot submit the value of any element if name is not defined. You learned that basic point. Okay, now how to collect the value of this formic and bind here. We need to collect the value and bind here. So what we need to do? Here we need value. From where the value should come? Value should come from where? So value should come from formic. Formic have dot values. Values from which field? The value should come from which field? We have to bind that. What is the field? Product. Actually, this is also not required initially. First, whatever data collected inside that we have to store. Then simple, what is the event? On change. Formic have handle change. That's it. Same I have to write for every element. For every element, formic handle change. On change, handle change. That's it. Next, for form, we have to write what event? Submit. Formic dot, what is it? Handle submit. And here we need to define submit event. On submit, it is a function. It function collects the product details. Whatever product details are there, it will collect. After that, we will log it. Console.log product. If it is API, we will use Ajax methods, everything here, posting the data and all. That means whatever initial values are there, they are collected here. And it will use those values. And these values are already binded with text boxes and all inside. And any change happened in them, automatically Formic will collect them. You don't need to write any on change functionality manually. You have to just bind. There is an ready-made event. You see now, I will go to the form. I will inspect in the console. Here we are entering product ID, some 2, product name, some name, the stock and city and register. And it should get the data and display. This is simple. That means earlier every element we need to write on change. Here also for every element on change is compulsory. But for on change, what functionality it should do is to send the data, you don't need to write. Formic already have a function, it will collect the data and it will just use the data. When compared to the previous, this is simple. We have more simple. This is only first level. We have more simple. This is only the first level of Formic. How Formic can manage? This is one way. In Formic itself, there are several ways. There are several ways to manage the data. So What Formic is doing, very simple. Just only this is the logic. Earlier, on change of ID, on change of name, on change of city. Now just initial values and bind them with the elements. Another, on submit, just collect the data and use the data. So whatever data you binded with the forms, you can collect that and you can use it. Two important events you have to bind. One is handle change, another one is handle submit. Handle submit. And Formic will do rest of the things. This looks better. Now, if you see this kind of things, then it is more better than your JavaScript. And if you see more techniques in this, you will feel that this is best. And there are so many techniques inside this Formic calls. Means according to situation, we use those different techniques. So every library is not like this. This is only Formic. Hook form is different, completely different. Their methods, functions, everything is different. Initially, this is the simple way of handling forms in React. This is the recommended way. If you are dealing with one or two elements, use the previous method what I showed you. You can try that. But if you are dealing with lengthy forms, edit the user details, submit the user details, then you go with this technique. So this is an example for that. What is that example? Formic demo.what.js. Same example, but this time we made it little simple. We can make it more simple. First, here we are just designing a form, collecting the data from the form. Now comes the major part in the form. That is how the Formic validations will work. Formic validations will work because general validation is lengthy. Here, how it make it simple validations that we'll see tomorrow. Right, in tomorrow's session, we will learn how the validations are done. Forms and validations you can do. Then we can create one example with real data, with APIs and all we can manage. Right. Tomorrow we will continue with this. Okay. And as I said, classroom, we are creating two separate classroom groups for online and offline people. For online people, our admin will share the classroom group. Offline people, offline admin will share. That is from tomorrow onwards. Today's example, in the same drive link I will upload, previous drive link. And tomorrow onwards, your notes will be on classroom groups. Tomorrow you will get the new class codes. Okay, right.